How's everyone doing today? How are you guys doing? It's been a while since I've made one of these episodes. This is going to be another one of my class review episodes for 2nd edition Pathfinder. This time we are going to specifically look at the Witch, one of the newer classes that came in the Advanced Player's Guide. I've decided, since it's been out for a while, instead of going with the basic classes first, kind of move on and kind of do it in reverse and start with the ones from the Secrets of Magic playtest and work my way back. So, the Witch. The Witch class is specifically, in 1st edition, it was a heavy crowd control, a very buff, debuffing type class with numerous hexes and various interesting ways to kind of manipulate the battlefield. So let's see how they kind of carry this into 2nd edition with the Witch. So, I will, those of you that are not aware, be using Octaves of Nethys as my kind of way to go through this. It's just easier than kind of opening up PDF for the actual class. Octaves of Nethys is kind of the official documentation of Pathfinder and Starfinder, so they have tons of new stuff, always most up-to-date stuff. So I definitely recommend this as a website to bookmark if you're playing Pathfinder, be it 1st edition or 2nd, or if you're playing Starfinder. So, as always, we talked about it briefly a bit doing the Magus and Summoner class, which is one of the few classes that has the 6+ con, so they're all kind of squishy. Key abilities intelligence makes sense, they are spellcaster. So far, nothing too extreme. Still the better basic role-playing stuff that they always talk about. The basic trainings and stuff, expert in will save, you kind of expect that. Here's another point to stand out that's pretty good. So before in 1st edition, witches did have their own spell list. Here they now kind of, depending on your patron, depending on your first lesson, if you will pick your specific list. So now you have access to all different spells, but depending on what kind of way you want to go, you may lean a specific way. The Familiar. So the Familiar is a key part to the Witch, as opposed to the Wizard, where the Familiar is kind of an assistant. Here, the Familiar is your conduit to your patron, that deity, that force that's kind of giving you this magical ability. So your Familiar is the one that technically knows all the spells, and then you kind of prepare your spells through your Familiar. And this basically just kind of goes listing off what spells your Familiar knows. It teaches you, your Familiar can learn spells through scrolls. That is important. So you can kind of gain additional spells that way. This is a good part as well. If your Familiar dies, you just get it back the next day. It does not affect any spells you have prepared. I believe in 1st edition, if your Familiar died, there was a penalty. I think it lost a spell or two, but that doesn't seem to be the case in 2nd edition. One quick note about this chart. This seems to be a common trend that you see it kind of maxes out at 3 spell slots for each level, which makes me kind of seem to be this trend that they're doing where you have less spells per day, but they're more effective, they're more stronger, and you start to notice that as you play the game, that your spells can do more damage, they seem to be more impactful to the game. Even if they're not, you don't have as many of them. Hexes. Now, hexes are a big part of the Witch class. These are very special spells that only witches can do. They kind of manipulate the combat in some way. Now, here in second edition, they appear to be specifically focus spells now. You start off with one focus point, and another good thing is you can only cast one hex each turn. So you can cast a second hex on the same turn. And we'll go into what the hexes are and what the choices are for that. You automatically start with the phase Familiar Hex, which pretty much, we'll open it just for you guys to take a peek. The reaction, and it pretty much gives you a familiar resistance 5 to all damage and immune to persistent damage. So basically, it's a quick, my familiar is gonna die, let's save it. Proficiencies, it's the same thing. Your patron. So your patron is kind of what determines your theme, determines your lessons, all that kind of stuff. So we'll hop into that quickly. So here they kind of gave them, it's a bit of a low, a smaller chart than what we used to get. I think the old chart was like pretty massive, and it was all kind of very broad. Right off the bat, boom, Baba Yaga. Many people know Baba Yaga is generally a strong influence on the witch class. There's a lot of like themes about about Baba Yaga in it, and a lot of Winter Witch themes. So Baba Yaga, you can see you get a patron. You can choose an inanimate object, so it's uniqueness. And here we go. You see, you get a spell list, occult, makes sense. The skill is nature. They get a cantrip, a spirit object, and they get a chilling spray. Makes sense. A lot of freezing, a lot of wintry effects with Baba Yaga. For GMs and players, keep in mind this is rare. So if you are a player trying to play a witch, make sure to get your GM's approval for this as a patron. Curse, that is your traditional like cursing people, and you can see occult again, Ray of Enfeeblement, another debuff spell, Evil Eye, which was a major hex in the first edition. So we'll hop over that quickly. And pretty much, so here you see it makes them frightened based on the result of the will save. And as long as this spell is active and you can see them, they can't actually remove the frightened condition. So it stays at least for a minute on them. So that's like a pretty big debuff to cast. Fate, similarly occult. This one you can see kind of does nudge fate and true strike, so a lot of manipulating the rolls. Fervor, this is your divine, so this is like your healing. You got command, you got religion, you got stoke the heart, which gives a +2 damage to all damage rolls from 1 minute. So you can see here, so you cast this on somebody. Cast this on your fighter, cast this on your ranger, anybody who might do a lot of attacks. I can add up +2 each attack. That's a good one. So Fire was definitely pretty good. Knight, that's your another occult one. You can see occult is probably the primary spell list that you'll probably be using. Sleep, Shroud of Night, that's another hex. If you cast this on a willing ally, oh, I went with light blindness. I can shoot. What? Unless the target has dark vision. I don't understand this one actually. So my guess is you would cover it with this shroud of darkness, and then you can't see anybody? Yeah, that's what. So I don't understand why you would cast Unwilling Ally. Rune, use that. That's your only arcane one. So if you want to be an arcane witch, or Rune, you get magic weapon, the Sun's Secrets, bonus to kind of recall knowledge skill checks. Probably not the most useful one, but it's good for kind of gaining that knowledge if you need to. You're probably playing Rune more for the arcane list, to be honest. And you have Wild, which is your primal. You summon animal, summon plant. And of course, Winter, which is more of like the ice and wind, also primal. So you can see you have quite different ways to actually play class. With spellcasting, they are a prepared spellcaster. Heightened spells, all the user stuff. All this stuff I generally skim over because it's the same thing. They kind of gain proficiency bonuses and ancestry feats as they kind of go on. So let us go over to the focus spells. There's one key point here I wanted to bring out. That is our good friend Cackle. So Cackle is a hex. This is a focus spell. It is important to keep in mind that for those of you who have played first edition witches, you know that Cackle was a big prominent feature of witches. You would cast a hex, then you would cackle. And your cackle just prolonged all your hexes at once. Now they seem to have made it much more limited, and cackle doesn't prolong everything. It's also a focus spell, so you can't spam it. Now, this is a good and bad thing. I feel like might be a bad thing in some people's eyes because it may weaken, or may make the witch appear to be weaker, because they can't just do a bunch of debuffs and then cackle constantly. But it's good in the sense of that the player is now able to actually do more on their turn. They don't have to just waste their move action cackling all the time. That's a pretty big step up, and seems to be something that second edition tends to be doing a lot, giving players more things to do in combat. If we go back to our feats, cauldrons here, I never really used much of cauldron, but basically it allows you to like craft oils and potions. Read spell, widen spell, generally kind of like almost like your meta magic type things. Your lessons, these are gonna definitely be ones that you'll have to take. There's a basic lesson and later on greater lesson and so forth. So those might be worth looking at. Living Hair, a classic. For those of you who have played Witch in first edition, you can kind of use your hair as an actual weapon. Similar here, Eldritch Nails gives you the option to use those witchy, hag-like nails and the hair to really make a character come alive in different ways. Everything else like summoning, and I'm not gonna go through all the feats because as you can see there are quite a lot of feats. Reflect spell, split hex kind of allows you to split some of your hexes up. Witch's Hut, a classic Baba Yaga, like making your house come alive and like follow you. So you can see there's definitely good ways to play the class. You can go heavy on the hexes, you can go heavy on lessons, on spell casting. We'll hop over to lessons. So these are the lessons that it mentions, and you see each lesson gives you a spell and a hex. So we'll go through the basic ones first. You Your Familiar learns Sleep, Spirit Link, Mage Armor. So we'll go Veil of Dreams. Let's quickly go through these. Penalty to Perception, Attack, and Will saves. It's kind of a good enchantment hex to weaken them. Life Boost, that's probably good for like that Fervor patron. Gains fast healing equal to double the spell's level. So good regeneration. Blood Ward allows you to kind of give you resistance against a specific type. Very good for thematic type fights. So you can see now you are actually getting hexes that benefit your team. And I don't have the full list. I can probably pull it up through Archives of Nethys, but I think that there was only a small handful of hexes that actually buffed your teammates. I know there was a healing hex. I think there was one for like fortune, but there definitely seems to be a few more enhancement type ones. Elemental Betrayal. You choose an element, and pretty much every time they take damage, they take more. And of course, your familiar gets a spell, so you can kind of combo that to do more damage. Needle of Vengeance. Okay, anytime they damage someone, they take 2 damage. Oh, and it increases. So pretty much, it's a good way to protect someone on your party if you don't want them to get hit. That's actually pretty cool. And your familiar learns Phantom Pain, which is a mental damage spell. Okay. This is your like snow, winter. So that's like your winter or like primal ones. Chilling Darkness. All the way up to your major lessons, Curse of Death. Does this just kill? Let's see. Okay, so it pretty much literally curses them and they might die. That's pretty powerful. A major healing hex. Let's see this one. It removes any doom or drain condition by 1. Okay, so that's a good way to kind of save yourself from those annoying statuses. Glacial Heart. Wow. 10d6 cold damage. The ongoing save has incapacitation trait. Slows, it continues to slow. So it pretty much freezes them and keeps them in this Glacial Heart. And it gives you Wall of Ice. So you see there you have a few offensive and like elemental type ones, and a few illusionary mental ones, and of course some personal healing ones. So that doesn't really work, whatever that thing is. So let's just kind of wrap it up with a brief thoughts on the Witch. The Witch definitely fills that crowd control type spellcaster. They have the ability to kind of spec all different ways, and especially depending on what patron you end up choosing, you can change your spell list accordingly. And most of it is occult, as we discussed, but you primal ones and stuff. So you can kind of, if you want to make an arcane or a divine, it's there. It's possible. And you can still have the hexes. You can still have the ability to really control and manipulate the field while still having that flail. And I actually think it's a pretty good rendition of the Witch. It's kind of, for lack of a better term, modernizes the Witch into 2nd edition and makes it a class that is playable with the new system, but still has that some of the good parts of the witch, the hexing, the familiar, the unknown force that's kind of driving you that you don't really know. That's a big thing many people don't really play into a lot, is that you technically don't really know what is giving you this power. So it actually makes the class pretty good, and I think it's... Will it compete with like the classic wizard and sorcerers? Probably not in terms of like true magical potential, but in terms of just being able to have a unique way of casting spells, I think it's pretty good. What do you guys think about the witch? Do you guys think the witch in 2nd edition is good? Have you built one yet? If so, what kind of builds have you done? How has it played out? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more Pathfinder videos, guides, streams, all coming on YouTube, guys, so stay tuned.